Our next guest started a blog called TV Newser. He sold that to Media Bistro in 2004, and he continued to run it until 2007 when he graduated from Townsend University in Baltimore. And every time he printed something on TV Newser, people always asked, how did he get that information? It was read by everybody in the TV business. His name is Brian Stelter, and he's out with a brand new book called Top of the Morning, Inside the Cutthroat World of Morning TV. Brian, welcome to KTRS.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so this is the definitive book of morning TV news and the cutthroat world. First, let's get to the question everybody wants to know, in which you dish in the book, is what happened to Ann Curry, and was it really Matt Lauer's fault?
There's a lot of blame to go around at the Today Show last year. Certainly, Matt Lauer could have done a lot more if he wanted to save Ann Curry. If he really believed she was the right co-host, he could have stopped all this from happening. But the truth is, he knew that she wasn't a great co-host. He did want someone else to be sitting next to him. And more importantly, so did his bosses. And it's really Jim Bell, the producer of the Today Show, and Steve Kappas, the head of NBC News, and Steve Burke, the head of all of NBC, who bear more responsibility for what happened.
Did they just not get along? Did she just not have the right chemistry with him? Why did it not work?
She looks back and hears the word chemistry, and she blames that. She says that's just a euphemism for the man not wanting to work with the woman. She is very disturbed by what happened to her last year. But a lot of people feel that chemistry was a legitimate explanation for what went wrong, that Matt and Ann just couldn't play well together. And oftentimes, if you're the newbie and the person sitting next to you has been there for 10 or 15 years, well, you're going to be the one to go, you know?
Right. Matt Lauer worked with Meredith Vieira, worked very well with Katie Couric. So, clearly Ann Curry's still running around complaining. I was in the checkout line the other day. She's on a cover story complaining about what happened.
Right. Well, that might be partially my fault. I was able to talk to her friends and her colleagues and try to piece together how she feels, and Us Weekly did a cover story about her last week about that. She has not been allowed to speak publicly. NBC has not allowed her to give interviews, and frankly, I would love for her to come out and speak so that we know how she feels now, 9 months after losing her job. I'd be very interested, but unfortunately, they've muzzled her.
Yeah, the book is called Top of the Morning, and it is going to top of the charts. Everybody wants to read it. It's called Top of the Morning. Brian Stelter is our guest inside the cutthroat world of morning TV. Stelter, right?
Stelter, yeah.
Stelter. Okay, Stelter. I apologize. They went with Susanna Guthrie as opposed to Natalie Morales or somebody else. Why did they go with her?
There were a bunch of reasons why they picked her. Savannah Guthrie was growing very quickly at NBC. She was being groomed for big things, it seemed like. A lot of executives had what I would call professional crushes on Savannah. She was someone that played well with others. She is someone who can come across as very genuine, sometimes even vulnerable. I hesitate to use that word because I don't want to play into a stereotype or
Sure.
a cliche, but sometimes I even noticed in my interactions with her, when I would bring up her future and how popular she was, she would be looking down at the ground, looking at her feet, not necessarily playing into those ideas that other people have about her. And I think that's very appealing sometimes for executives who are in charge, because they deal with big egos, big egos. And if they have the sense that someone has not been totally captivated by that red light that comes on the camera, sometimes that can be very appealing.
Brian, you're pretty powerful in these circles, and I suspect that the only thing worse than being profiled and talked about in this book is not being talked about in this book.
Well, I have to reject the premise of your question, calling me powerful, but I'll play along for a second. There were a lot of people that wanted to talk for this book. That's the way I would put it. A lot of people wanted to make sure their voices were heard. Because let's be honest, everybody in the media has got an ego. And I was able to learn a lot from those people who wanted to teach me about television.
Sure. Matt Lauer and Natalie Morales, there are all sorts of crazy rumors about them dating and all that. I mean, where did all those come from, and was there any truth to any of that?
Those stories first surfaced in the National Enquirer a few years ago. NBC denied them at the time and continues to deny them to this day. But I did talk to several NBC executives, high-placed people who've had to clean up some of these messes in the past, and they told me they did believe that Matt Lauer and Natalie Morales had some relationship in the past. In fact, they made fun of me for not believing it. And that was pretty persuasive to me, and I mentioned that in the book because I think that once Ann Curry was removed from her job last year, people blamed Matt Lauer for that. Then those same people started blaming Matt Lauer for all other sorts of things. It's almost as if you give people one reason to dislike you, and then they come up with a second reason, and a third reason, and a fourth reason. So all of a sudden, people were dredging up those old rumors about Natalie Morales. They were complaining that Matt Lauer makes too much money. And it's almost as if people turned on a dime from liking him to disliking him.
How close was Katie Couric to coming back?
It was something that was talked about in 2011. I think it would have been an amazing idea, a reunion of Katie Couric and Matt Lauer on the Today Show. They would have hosted for a couple of years, and then they would have gone to daytime and hosted an afternoon talk show together. But it was never that serious. It was always an idea, but NBC never really took it seriously. And Katie Couric told me that although she loved the idea, she was very intrigued by it, she wasn't sure she wanted to go back and do something she had done before. You know, she was worried that it would seem a little bit backwards.
Yeah. You know, it seems to me like Katie Couric and Bryant Gumbel were never really the best of friends, but they were able to keep it together, right?
They were. And you know, and Bryant Gumbel was able to transition very smoothly over to the Matt Lauer. You know, when Bryant Gumbel stepped down, Matt Lauer replaced him, and Matt's been on ever since. These transitions, even when they go terribly, the way Ann Curry's did last year, usually there's some good to come out of it. In the 1990s, Deborah Norville was briefly the host. It went terribly.
Right.
The viewers seemed to reject him. Brian Gumbel rejected her as well. But you know what came out of that was Katie Couric. Katie Couric replaced Deborah Norville, and it was great for 15 years after that. I wonder if the same is true now. I wonder if Savannah Guthrie is going to have that long tenure the way that Katie Couric did. Or maybe someone else will have that long tenure. But it does seem like the Today Show, is now primed for a comeback.
All right, well, let's talk about that in a second. The book is called Top of the Morning. Everybody's talking about this. Inside the cutthroat world of morning TV, Brian Stelter, our guest, the man who started TV Newser, which was a website that I subscribed to, and he had all the inside information. It was well documented that everybody checked out that webpage and that blog throughout the years. Brian, let's talk about the Today Show losing their lead to Good Morning America. Good Morning America, they're the kings of the morning today, correct?
They are. Good Morning America has been winning in the ratings for about a year now. They have been losing for 15 or 16 years. They have been losing so long they have forgotten what it felt like to win. But they were able to beat the Today Show last year, thanks in part to the Today Show's own self-inflicted wounds, like removing Ann Curry, and in part because Good Morning America just put on a better product. It's like any business, like any industry. If you fight against your rival long enough, eventually your rival will screw up, and that's your chance to shine.
How much of ABC's morning success is based on Jimmy Kimmel at night versus Jay Leno at night?
Well, lead-ins do matter. It does matter what channel you turn off the television on at night. If you're watching ABC at midnight and you turn it off, well, then you're going to turn the TV back on at 7 a.m. and there's ABC. That does help, but the reality is that actually both ABC and NBC have had pretty bad ratings in the last couple of years. I don't think that Good Morning America's success has that much to do with the overnight audience. I think some viewers actually, I know several people like this who watch NBC's local station at 6 a.m. and then flip over to ABC now for Good Morning America at 7.
Right, and then a lot of people have been watching David Letterman for years, and then the minute the CBS Morning Show comes on, they can't run fast enough to the remote to change it.
But you make an interesting point, which is Jimmy Kimmel is a younger host. And over time, as he grows more popular, that might help ABC and Good Morning America in particular more and more. He's a host of a next generation, whereas Jay Leno, who's retiring next year, he's part of a generation that seems to be handing over the reins to a younger generation.
Yeah. As for CBS, how has their experiment gone with going newsier in the morning?
There are some early signs that it's working. For the first year, ratings were sort of sort of just piddling along, not too high, not too low. And as a result, I barely put them in the book. This is the show with Charlie Rose and Gayle King and Norah O'Donnell. But something happened in January, right as I was finishing my book. CBS This Morning started to inch up in the ratings, and it's been doing better ever since. It's still deep in third place, but they're seeing progress for the first time in a long time. And I think if they can just be consistent, do a great show every day, and most importantly, be patient, something CBS has never been before, patient, then they have a chance.
I understand ratings are important, clearly, because everyone gets paid based on ratings. But CBS Morning Show, even though it's mired in third place, are they not making just a heap full of money?
They are. The CBS does make a lot of money. ABC and NBC makes more money, though, and CBS would like to claw away some of the revenue that those other two shows get. Between those three shows, they split about $1 billion in advertising revenue every year, and that's why that's why these shows take everything so seriously. Because even if CBS can take $50 million away from the other two shows, well, that's a pretty big bonus check for the people to do it.
But if CBS wanted to make a change, where would they go? It's just more or less like tried and rehashed new faces, old faces, whatever else. I mean, they tried with Bryant Gumbel. That didn't work. They tried with Charlie Smith. They tried with all these people. I mean, it just might be that they're in third place and just put a good quality product out and just get whatever you can.
That's partly what the plan is now. The show is a more hard news show. It does more interviews. It tries to be more serious than the Today Show or GMA. You're not going to see as many viral videos. You're not going to see cooking segments on CBS. And they hope over time that'll draw an audience that gets sick and tired of the soft stuff on the other two shows. In the meantime, what's helpful at CBS is that the bosses, people like Les Moonves, the chief executive, they're much more proud of the show now. They're much happier with it than they used to be. They used to watch the morning show and sort of grimace a little bit, but now they're very proud of it. They brag about it to their friends and their colleagues, and that seems to be a good sign internally.
Brian Stelter is our guest. Brian Stelter, I've butchered your name enough. Brian Stelter, our guest. The book is called Top of the Morning, Inside the Cutthroat World of Morning TV. One more question for you, Brian, and we'll let you go, and that is, how has the new world treated morning TV news? In other words, everyone's got an iPhone. Everyone's watching TV and web pages and everything else. Is the morning audience shrinking overall? Is it growing? Where does it go from here?
The morning audience is shrinking a little bit, but it's shrinking a lot less than other times a day. We've seen late night lose a lot of viewers. We've seen primetime network shows lose a lot of viewers, but mornings are hanging on because people want to wake up and spend time with a group of people in the morning. They want companionship as they're making breakfast and getting dressed for work. But I do think these shows are going to go through an existential crisis. I always have a hard time pronouncing that word.
That's all right.
As we wake up with our iPhones and our tablets in the morning, I roll over every morning, look at my phone before I turn on the TV. As that happens more and more, these shows are going to have to evolve. Because if we get the headlines on our phone, if we get reassured everything's all right in the world on our phone, then morning TV and morning radio as well it's going to have to become even more about chemistry, about fun conversations, about entertainment as well as information. This is a transition that I think we're going to see over time. If I were the Today Show or Good Morning America, I'd be working on an alarm clock app for people's phones. Wake up with the shows.
Yeah, who makes more money, the evening news or the morning shows?
The morning shows by far. In fact, the morning shows help to fund the evening newscast because, first of all, they're on for a lot longer. They've got bigger advertisers, and they are able to sell something consistent every single day. The morning shows have the news, but then they pivot to the fun stuff faster, and advertisers like that.
Yeah. What about local news and local morning news and how they interact with the network news or the network morning shows? Are we going to see less local morning shows and more national hours?
I think we're going to see more and more local, actually. One of the strengths for local TV right now is local news. Because as we move from a live world to an on-demand world, this is a transition that's taking decades, but it seems we're going there. You can watch network primetime shows on Hulu or Netflix or iTunes or anywhere else. But local TV news tends to be live. People want to watch it live. And so it is a safe harbor in an otherwise sort of rocky world out there.
The book is called Top of the Morning. Brian Stelter is our guest inside the cutthroat world of morning TV. Brian, I've loved your stuff for years. Thank you for writing the book. Best of luck, and we'll talk to you down the road.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You got it. The book is called Top of the Morning, Brian Stelter. Brian Stelter, Inside the Cutthroat World of Morning TV. This is a must-read for many people. Top of the Morning. Back in a moment on the Big 550 KTRA.